my pleasure to welcome now the science fiction writer Bruce Sterling, who's going to go further than we had this morning. And please join me welcoming Bruce Sterling.
Yes, thank you for joining me here, yet another obligatory novelist at the technical conference. I have brought some pictures for those among you who get very tired of English. You're okay? You can hear me there? No? Sounds a little weird. Shall I clip it onto the lavalier and kind of lean into it here? You're a little happier now? Okay. Right. So I was afraid that Nicholas would blog me live, so I got him to run my pictures instead. This is a book by Simpson Garfinkel, American technical journalist, RFID, application security, and privacy. If you get interested in the things I'm about to tell you at this speech, I would urge you to read this book first, lest you start getting all ludic with digital tags for actual objects and you end up blowing your thumbs off or blundering into the Steve Kurtz political repression zone. You probably want to read Dr. Garfinkel's fine effort here, where he gets a lot of the soothsayers together into the same page, and this is sort of gives you the technical and techno-social and security and privacy interests all at one place. Next picture, please. Right. This is my book, which does not do any of the things that that Simpson's book does. My book is more about what I think this technology is going to feel like. It's kind of a cultural assessment, really, kind of a visionary meditation on the subject. I have a very language-centric presentation today. This is a rather literary presentation because I'm writing a novel now, which is based on some of the ideas which are in this book. What's the kind of elevator pitch? Well, I think there are 6 trends in technology which all have something to do with physical objects, and they add up to a kind of new cultural sensibility for objects. And what are these 6 trends? Well, it's interactive chips is number 1. We now have objects that can be labeled with interactive chips and given unique digital identities, also known as electronic barcoding, RFID, if you're French, it's RFID, or RFIDs. The second trend is geolocation. We have very local and precise positioning systems for physical objects in a Cartesian environment now. The third trend is powerful search engines. We can actually find things digitally. Kind of needle in a haystack is not a problem for Google. We're looking at auto-Googling objects pretty soon. Now the fourth trend is 3D modeling for objects, virtual design, computer-aided manufacturing. The fifth trend is rapid prototyping of objects, fabricators, computer fabricators, making objects from virtual design in a single manufacturing step, Fabbed Objects, The sixth trend is cradle-to-cradle recycling, transparent production, actually watching objects move digitally from the moment in which they are designed to the moment to which they are torn apart and recycled. Now these are 6 big things, and it's kind of hard to put them all in one little bag, but that's what I attempted to do in this book. And the outcome is that it will cause people, should this happen, it will cause people to interact with physical objects in an unprecedented way. Essentially, we will end up with manufactured objects whose informational support system is so extensive and so rich that objects, real objects, physical objects, are regarded as material instantiations of the immaterial system. In other words, the actual becomes the new virtual. We have objects that begin and end as data, and we see them as hard copies of a data support system. And I would take this to be about 30 years away. And I'm trying to describe what it would be like to live under these circumstances. So I invented a neologism, because I think this is an unprecedented situation. And I'm trying to pack a lot of concepts into a single word. So I made up the word spime. It has 5 letters in it. It's a noun. I'm a novelist. Now, I don't necessarily expect that word to stick or to pass into general usage. It may have a very short shelf life. But as a novelist and a journalist and a design critic, I need a single syllable noun for an object that is plannable, trackable, findable, recyclable, uniquely identified, and generates digital histories. A spime. That's what a spime is. I'm building these scattered concepts into a single verbal package. It's kind of a Victorinox knife here. It's a Swiss multi-tool. I write novels, and I don't want to list 6 things. I want to say things like, that's a spime. She spimed it. Oh, it wasn't spimeable. It had gone unspimed. It is too spimy. That is not spimy enough. So my book, Shaping Things here, is a cultural manifesto and a visionary design polemic. Next picture, please. This is what I consider to be at issue. This is what is at stake. Not a super gizmo, not an ultimate object, not a fantastic object, the everyday object. The infrastructure in general. The world's most boring objects. Common, cheap, anonymous, O2 or Fury, Arla, everyone has one. This is what is at stake. The everyday object. And I expect the everyday object, the quotidian object, to be changed in the next 3 decades in the way that word processing and computer networks have changed pens, pencils, papers, typewriters, carbon paper. We're talking about object processing, the birth of object processing here. Now, it's going to have some certain effects we can't really expect. Next picture. This is the mysterious black box in which the object of the future arrives. You see it's designed by paranoiacs, but it nevertheless does a lot of the things I expect a spime to be doing. This is kind of a giant future spime shipping box here. I just sort of check that one out for a while. Next picture, please. This is an RFID tag, an RFID tag. I'm going to leave you with this because it has no English on it. Beautiful, elegant image. These are trackable objects which will be peeled off and simply attached or been built to other devices so that they can be tracked. Those are radio frequency ID tags in their most advanced incarnation now. Small, difficult to find, very delicate, very sensory. Nice image, elegant, soothing, designery, not like that box. So what kind of conceptual territory am I trying to cram into my single word here? Well, let's listen to some other words, kind of rival synonyms for my concept here. Okay, number 1, a personal favorite, blogjics. It's actually a younger word than spime. Blogjics are objects that can blog. They're objects which are emitting data about themselves, and it's available to other people. Okay, I like this word a lot. I don't think it's very easy to say. I'm not too happy about its derivation. I think a spime is very much like a blogjict, but a spime is more like a blog that could emit objects, rather than an object that blogs about itself. In other words, you can sort of load onto the Spimes blog. It would be something like Make Magazine with its open source recipes for amateurs building things. So you've got the blog about the object. And of course, if you want to hit my PayPal button, then I'll fab out an object and I will ship it to you. And then we can track it together and we can share the data. Right, okay, thank you. I've only killed one. Another term, another rival term, UFOs, ubiquitous, findable objects. I think that's kind of an interesting term. Dead. This one's dead, this one's alive. No? Am I murdering them? No, okay. I just wondered if some object on my person was emitting microphone-killing rays. Okay, ubiquitous findable objects are obviously a spime would be a ubiquitous findable object, but I don't like that terminology because UFOs sound too science fictional. I don't think this is a wild notion. I think this is what everyday life looks like. Some other terminologies: mobile social software, mobile appliances, automatic networks. These are real phenomena. I think these are sort of tech support for Spimes. They are the network support system for Spimes or Blogjics or UFOs. Now, Matt Jones earlier today said that you have to do push-ups at Nokia if you continue to call a cell phone when they're trying to do things with it that are not cell phone operations. I think that's true. I think that the proper interface for a Spime is a handheld network object that would look more or less like today's cell phone. I call it a wand. A wand is a good term for a handheld interface for a Spime. 4 letters, you don't have to call it multimedia anything. It's not a phone. You're not phoning anything. You're actually digitally interacting with real world objects. A shopping wand, maybe, just a wand. Some other terms, rival terms: Internet of Things. A Spimes would be an Internet of Things, obviously. The emphasis there is on the things rather than the net, but an Internet of Things. An ecology of things involving automatic transfers of data between chips that are attached to objects. Those are the names that were given to classes I was teaching last year at Art Center College of Design in California. If you use a term like Internet of Things rather than a term like Spime, you can win some real corporate sponsorship, maybe some VC interest from MIT or Sun or the Pentagon or Walmart. So, if you're in the business, I would urge you to use the terminology Internet of Things. I don't think anybody 30 years from now would be referring to an Internet of Things. If you've got a thing that has been interneted, it's going to have its own kind of terminology. The term for the practice: object hyperlinking. I think there's actually some conceptual promise in this because they are hyperlinked objects, but hyperlinking has kind of a 1980s sound to it. And generally you're in trouble when you name a technology super or hyper or ultra, because it's like ultra wideband or something. It sounds dull immediately, because as soon as it's normal and no longer ultra, you've dated yourself. So object hyperlinking, I think, is kind of an accurate description of what's going on, but doesn't have the proper ring. And also, there are other terms like locative media, the geospatial web, context-aware computing. These all have something to do with mapping physical objects digitally. This is a very happening thing. The fact that there are 3 different terminologies for it is a good sign that something's breaking loose there. But those terminologies elide the history of objects. It's not merely about mapping the objects, but also about generating directions of how to get there. In other words, it's not merely geolocative, but also phenomenological. We're trying to generate usage patterns, not just where it is, but what was I doing with it? Where did it come from, and where is it going? Web 2.0. Another very large grab bag of verbal concepts there. Many of the concepts in Web 2.0 have obvious applications to Spimes, but Web 2.0 is not a web. Web 2.0 is a social movement. It's a community of techno-social interested parties, and it's a terminology that's intended to get them to show up in the same venue at the same room. Kind of a big tent notion. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's like having an event called Lift 06, Life, Ideas, Futures Together. What is not included in that description? Is there a rival conference called Death, Dogma, the Past, and Becoming a Hermit? I think there is, and if there were, the Vatican would throw it. Other rival terms: everywhere, W-A-R-E, everywhere. It's like where for everyness, or everything, or everywhereness. That's like a really cool pun, but nobody knows what you're talking about when you say it verbally. because you can't tell the difference between everywhere and everywhere. No, it's not going to work in speech, which damages its possibilities. Another useful term, the Infocloud. An Infocloud is the digital backup that's generated by objects that are blogging, something along that line. Just a cloud of data that concerns the topic at hand. Okay, I like Infocloud, but I think that it's inside out. What we're actually talking about is an Infocloud that matters, and the objects are generated by the cloud. Okay? I'm talking about objects that are congealations of an Infocloud, not something which is generating info. The blue sphere is a term used for Bluetoothing. If I'm in the Bluetooth range of you, I'm in your blue sphere. So if I could like move my blobject into your blue sphere, we'd soon be bluing our way into an Internet of Things. Okay. Data shadows. Data shadows are Infoclouds, but that assumes that the light source is hitting the object and creating the shadows. No, the shadows are creating the object. I mean, yes, now data shadows make sense. But when this thing reaches its peak, it's the shadows that are creating the object. Or at least that's how we see it, and that's how people will talk about it in daily understanding, because that's just, how can I put this? That is their sensibility. That is the cultural sensibility of someone who has grown up surrounded by blobjects. It's not the hard copy that matters. It's the support system that is critical. Some nice adjectives here. Ubiquitous, pervasive, invisible, embedded, continuous, tangible. Yes, 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 yes. But we need to pack those all together into one, okay? A verb. Can't just have nouns, we need a verb. To instantiate. It is an instantiation, which is a term that comes from computer programming. We have a piece of software and it like made into a computer program object. Okay, we could borrow that term and apply it to physical objects. I have an Infocloud, which describes how the thing is made. I have it fabbed out. I have instantiated it. My Spime is an instantiated Infocloud. You know, it sounds funny to us, but that's because we're just sort of standing at the brink of it. We haven't grown up within it. Spy chips, a pejorative term for RFID, a term of abuse. It is very important to have terms of abuse in debate. If nobody is unhappy about the issue, then nothing is happening. Something is happening. Technology giveth, technology taketh away. There will be downsides, there will be harm. Spy chips. Yes, a spime will spy. If you are surrounded by your enemy's spimes, you're in deep trouble. If you're in prison, you may very well be surrounded by spimes. If you're in a concentration camp, you may very well be surrounded by spimes, which are being accessed and run against your interests by hostiles. Spy chips. Okay, now some pictures. Can we move on a little? Yes, Fabbed right? Fabbed. These are objects made by computer fabricators. My former campus, Art Center College. Next, please. Yes, look at this gorgeous thing. Made in a single step. Now, mind you, this is an industrial object here. Another one. Oh, yeah. Got some threading on here. Next. This is a guy scanned his hand, had it reduced by a factor of 10 and printed out in a fabricator. That's his own hand next to that American coin. These are some computer-generated skyscraper models from UCLA, I think. Next one, there's another skyscraper model generated. These are potential fabbed buildings. Now, what kind of people go, yeah, brother, when I show these pictures of fabbed objects? Well, there is a class of people who interact with Spimes. It's a new technology and it generates a new class. I mean, every new means of production promotes a new power class, right? And they have names too, and they don't have just one name. They are Proto Kratz, Proto Kratz, who are trying to bring novelty into being. They're trying to take things that are just sort of podium buzz and turn them into real products, real objects, real processes. They are Proto Kratz. They are wranglers, which is the next step beyond hackers, because a lot of their problems are basically political rather than technical. They are hackers. They are alpha geeks. They are early adopters. They don't have a settled term yet, but this room is full of those people. And just try to think, what would you call yourself if you had to name yourself as a class? If you're about to be rounded up and liquidated by, I don't know, RIA and the MPAA, what would they call you? All right, now, in order for a term to work, there has to be some things it's not about. I mean, what is not covered by my 10th spine? Artificial intelligence? No. This concept has nothing to do with artificial intelligence. Smart anything? No, it is not smart. There is no smartness. Searchable? Yes. Smart? No. Aware? Aware anything? No, there is no awareness in these processes, any more than Google is aware. It is not awareness. Storytelling. Is it telling stories? No, there is no narrative in here. There is no beginning, there is no conflict, there is no arc, there is no denouement. I am a novelist, I know how to tell stories. These are not stories. And although this is a ubicomp idea, it comes from ubiquitous computation, the idea of Spime is not ubiquitous and it's not computation. It's never ubiquitous, and computation has very little to do with what's actually happening here. So my interest now, my sort of challenge for the year after having written this little Shaping Things book, is to try and describe in a novel what it's like to wake up in a world with these properties. What is it like to be in a spimed room? I'm not a technologist, I'm not a venture capitalist, I am a novelist. I'm trying to get this cultural experience down on paper in a plausible way. I'm going to have characters in my book I'm working on now, who meet the spime. And what difference does it make? What is the real difference between the world I'm describing and the world we have now? I think the primary advantage of a spimed world is inside my head, because I no longer inventory my possessions in my head. I don't care about what I own. They are inventoried through auto-magical inventory voodoo, a spiming process, which is work, sorting work, searching work, which is done below my conscious notice by a host of machines. So I no longer remember where I put things, or where I found them, or how much they cost, and so forth. I just ask, and then I am told with instant real-time accuracy. I have an Internet of Things with a search engine. So I no longer search for my shoes in the morning, I just Google them. And as long as machines can crunch these complexities, this interface makes my relationship to objects feel much simpler, less hazardous, more immediate, and more convenient than it does today. I am at ease in physical materiality in a way that I never was before. And if it doesn't work in that way, it will not be adopted. It is not stable. It is not a universal system. Everybody has their own internet. Everyone is going to have their own methods of reacting to spimes. I expect it to come not as a mass movement, but in extreme conditions. I expect it to come from conditions of catastrophe, quite frankly. Conditions of extreme poverty and complete material loss, for instance. Evacuation camps, prisons. The ultimate of versions, clean rooms, life support within hospitals. The down market versions, true bohemian madness, complete calamity between people and objects. Where do I expect this to come from? I believe it will grow out of what we have right now. I don't expect it to require any kind of high-level decision-making. I think it is a natural evolution from a world of digital devices that people are already carrying, laptops, media players, camera phones, wands, and the wireless and wireline broadband networks that are serving them in locations as they move about, and the global internet, and its growing store of socially generated knowledge and web-based on-demand social applications. That's where these things are going to nestle and grow and develop. And now I'm trying to write a novel about this idea where somebody gets up in the morning unexcited about this. Not excited, unexcited, used to it, marinating in it, swimming in it like a sea. New things saying hello, old things dying off. Nagware, ghosts, shopware, possessions awaiting creation, possessions awaiting their shipment to the junkyard. And I think the key to this, really the kind of secret to the whole scheme, is a very interesting question. What is the question to which ubiquitous computation is the answer? Why would anybody really want to have it? I mean, ubiquitous computation spread everywhere through physical objects. It makes a certain amount of sense. We seem to be trending in that direction, but what is the killer application for it? What is it that it's really good for? And I think the answer is sustainability. It's a way to run a society that doesn't fall apart at the seams. It's a way to run a society that can clean up after itself. It's just a tidier way to put an industrial system onto the surface of a planet. Because sustainability is the one problem we have that's as widespread and as universal as the promise of this particular technology. So I think, yeah, that is the answer. What's it good for? It's good for sustaining. It's good for going on. I think it's the way forward. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, so we have time for 2 or 3 questions before the next panel. Okay.
Hi there. You just talked about sustainability, and earlier you talked about cradle-to-cradle recycling, I think.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little more about how that concept works? It's not clear why this technology should...
Move on to the next pictures there. I actually forgot these. Yeah, a little more.
Yeah, why this should enable sustainability more.
Okay. I think this is my sort of photographic answer here. And the next one. Right. What are those doing there? And, you know, how come nobody noticed and went and got them? Well, because nobody's paying attention, really. I mean, there's no way to track them. If you knew how to track those little tires there and you knew exactly what was in them, it would suddenly become a much more commercial enterprise. Just go out, pick them up, break them down to pieces, and turn them into something else. Road, bid, stuffing, whatever. But it's ignorance, really. I mean, it's our lack of awareness that has caused people to, like, find a place to dump tens of thousands of these things. But really, you know, are valuable resources and could conceivably be folded back in the production stream in one way or another. I mean, we abandon stuff not simply because it's worn out, but because we forgot how we made it, we don't know what's in it, and we don't have any way to recuperate the value in it. And I think that the system I'm proposing would help with this a little bit. I mean, more than a little bit. I think actually if you work it through, this becomes sort of unthinkable in a truly Spimes system. Yeah?
Sort of have a preview questions. Do one of the characters in your future novel have any sort of major problems with Spimes? You know, it's a novel, so there should be a problem.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, it wouldn't be particularly dramatic to have a book without problems.
You know, it's not a utopian society that I'm describing here. I think it's something that will happen in about 30 years and might last more or less about 20, and then would be replaced by another society more advanced. So yeah, I think my characters will have 2 kinds of problems. They have the legacy of the past that they're trying to reform with their spiming systems, and then they have the difficulties of
new protocracies, other things coming in that are sort of tearing apart their system as rapidly as they can pack it together. Everybody who's involved in technology has some kind of problem. The install base is a problem, and new destabilizing technologies are problematic. But I expect them to have protocratic problems. They're all Proto Kratz of a sort. They've got the stuff that's working and then the stuff that isn't working. It's like, state of the art means breakdown next month, and cutting edge means broke down last week. They're familiar problems. They're not that hard to dramatize.
Do you expect people's emotional response to objects and to Spimes to change from what we have now?
Yes, I do, actually. And I suspect that you have an emotional response which departs the object per se and kind of bleeds over into your records of a departed object and your plans for another object, right? And I have a very similar emotional response to, say, a novel manuscript, because I'm of the generation that actually began my career with a manual typewriter. So I can recall when a holographic manuscript was something you'd sweated blood over, and it was like absolutely vital and valuable. And you could pay huge amounts of money for, say, a Dickens holographic manuscript, and these were the holy grails of the authorial production system. I've got the original manuscript. That's gone. There is no original manuscript. There's not even an original file. You're lucky if you have a file that you can actually send to the publisher, right? And nobody comes back and says, oh, well, this is Bruce Sterling's treasure.pdf. But it doesn't mean I care less about my books. What it means is that, like, the production system is bled over. I now care more about, like, where I got the books, where the book is going, how the book is moving, and I'm in a much more intense relationship with people like, say, my Italian publishers, who never used to be able to contact me, but now have, like, no difficulty at all pulling my elbow. So my books have become less physical and more relational. They're more like a congealed social process, right? And you feel very differently about it that way. Now imagine that structure of emotionality being carried to, say, tableware, or cars, or your apartment, or the things you went and got at IKEA, and then went and dropped at IKEA later because they're required to accept them when they're worn out, right? Yes, I think the structure of emotion changes radically in that. And I don't expect it to become less intense. In some ways it would become more intense. Like the teddy bear you had for 6 months as a child never quite leaves you. You can get another one that's an absolute physical replica of the first, down to the yarn, down to the buttons on its eyes. And if you could do that, would you really want it? Right? If you've got a perfect record of the teddy bear and you can make another teddy bear that's practically identical, do you need the actual teddy bear? Or is the teddy bear just a hard copy of a teddy bear support system? And if that's the case, maybe isn't the support system what you're really kind of nostalgic about? I remember how I got that bear on eBay, and then I sold him on Amazon, and here's my records of the PayPal transaction. Not you, your child, right? Someone who doesn't recognize this as novelty. It's a struggle, but that's why I get paid to write novels.
Okay, so I think the teddy bear supporting systems is a nice opportunity to thank Bruce Sterling for his presentation.